On a dark and foggy night, a young couple, Emily and Mark, parked their car in the shopping mall's parking lot. When they returned from their shopping, they noticed that the parking lot was empty. It was unusual for this time of night. It would typically be busier. Emily remarked, "This is strange. The parking lot is usually much fuller." Mark responded, "Maybe we arrived early. Come on. Let's get in the car and head home." However, as they walked toward their car, they sensed that something was off. The silence surrounding them felt like something scratching at their ears. When they reached their car, they realized that the engine wouldn't start. Emily attempted to turn the keys again, but the car wouldn't start. Mark said, "I think the battery's dead." Stuck in the middle of the parking lot with their vehicle, they began to feel the eerie silence closing in on them. Only the faint rustling of the wind could be heard. They reached for their phones, but found no cellular signal. Emily suggested, "Maybe we should go back to the mall for help." They both got out of the car and started walking towards the mall's main entrance. However, with each step, the mall's buildings seemed to shrink and distances lengthened. They suddenly found themselves in the middle of a vast, desolate forest. Panic set in as they began to walk deeper into the forest, not knowing which way to go with each step. The shadows lurking between the bushes became more apparent. They heard horrifying sounds, and it felt as though the very forest itself was breathing. Emily and Mark got lost in the forest and encountered increasingly terrifying phenomena. Shadows were following them, and they witnessed strange figures. Eventually, at the end of their terrifying journey, they stumbled upon a clearing, and once again, they were faced with the parking lot. However, their car was nowhere to be found. The parking lot was quiet and empty as before. Emily and Mark were caught in the midst of this dark and mysterious event, struggling to distinguish reality from nightmare without understanding what had happened. They were drawn back into the forest. Emily and Mark found themselves lost in the depths of the forest, encountering increasingly horrifying events. At one point, they stumbled upon an abandoned cabin that seemed straight out of a nightmare. As they opened the door, they were met with a room that was old, dusty, and eerie, strange symbol. As they explored the cabin, they came across a peculiar book. The pages were ancient, and it was written in a bizarre language. When Emily tried to decipher the words on one page, she suddenly lost her comprehension, and her head began to spin. She dropped the book and turned to Mark, saying, "I don't think this book can help us." However, as they left the cabin, the atmosphere of the forest grew even stranger. The shadows now appeared more menacing, and they felt as if they were being followed. Sinister figures drew closer and became more distinct. Emily and Mark continued to walk deeper into the forest, but they felt as though something was watching and guiding them. A low, ominous wind began to blow, and as they looked up at the sky, they saw hundreds of birds suddenly leaving their nests and flying towards the forest. Finally, exhausted and terrified, they arrived at a large clearing in the heart of the forest. In the clearing, there lay an old graveyard. The tombstones were covered in moss from years of neglect, and some appeared to be damaged. As Emily and Mark examined the graveyard, they were shocked to find their own names and death dates inscribed on some of the tombstones. This discovery sent shivers down their spines. Before they could make sense of what was happening, they realized that something had drawn them here, and they were now part of this horrifying nightmare. The story concludes here, as Emily and Mark had become lost within the dark and eerie forest. They were swallowed by the secrets and terrors of the forest and never returned.